Welcome to Through the Eyes of Survivors. This is a podcast where we amplify the voices of those who've been silenced, whether survivors or those lost to domestic violence. My name is Tara, and I'm here to take you on a journey. And we're going to listen and learn and heal in our podcast today. Now, each episode, we're going to sit down and listen to brave individuals who have navigated their journey through domestic violence and emerged stronger for it. Their stories are here to inspire you and help us understand through the complexities and what domestic violence really entails. So, this podcast isn't just about stories, it's a call to action by leading us down a path and a narrative where you lend your ears. We can contribute to a world where we can become more compassionate and more informed about this issue. I'm Tara Woodley, your host on this journey, and this is Through the Eyes of Survivors. Hi, I'm Tara Woodley. I'm president of Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence, and we welcome you to the next episode here of Through the Eyes of Survivors, where we have topics about today's challenges for survivors and their families. And we thank y'all for being here. Today's guest is one of our wonderful volunteers. Actually, she is Volunteer of the Month currently, and also our social media engagement coordinator. And Mia is also pursuing work in a degree in social work. So, Mia, go ahead and tell us your full name because I have trouble saying your last name.
My name is Mia Caicedo.
Awesome. Thank you, Mia. So, Mia actually is have been part of the family through her mother for a very long time. Her mother's also on our board of directors, but Mia just does a phenomenal job in whatever she's doing here at Break the Silence, and we rely on her quite a bit. So, um, but Mia has a very interesting story herself as a child who has seen domestic violence in her home and within her family. So that's what we're going to talk on today. What kind of impact does witnessing domestic violence in your home have on a child as you're growing up?
I was really young, so it was really hard for me. Like in my mom's story, she talked about how the final like what took her to leave was broken bones, and when my dad broke her ribs, I just remember her being in the hospital and me just asking, "Why isn't she coming home? Like I want my mom."
Right.
And I just like that's like the only thing I really remember from my childhood. I feel like it's like kind of all blocked out. But
Uh-huh.
and like I feel like after it was a while before I saw my dad again, and I think my mom really had the hope that I would be the one to like heal and like rewrite the past like with all my dad's issues. And for a while I was like his favorite person in the world. And then as I grew up, I got more and more like my mom, which I'm really thankful for, but he didn't like that. And he would just like he would say all these horrible things about my mom, and then he would get angry at me. Like he would talk about how he hated her and she ruined everything and that she's a bunch of bad words, and then he would look at me and say you're just like her.
Mm.
And so it was hard for me because it was like he hated my mom so much, and then to look at me and tell me that I was just like her, it was like he hated me too.
Right. No, no child deserves that, Mia. Absolutely. Well, and it must be hard because children innately, like even myself as a grown adult, realize that we are a part of that other family member too. So, what kind of mixed feelings do you think you had because of that? Because not he's telling you you're like your mom, but there's a part of you that is, your father. I mean, he gives you these genetics and stuff. What were your feelings like that along those lines?
I feel like because like I love my dad so much,
Mhm,
And it's really hard that his past and his pain keeps him from loving me.
mhm.
And so I just try to make sure, like, anytime I, like, get super angry or anything, I'm just like, I cannot be like my dad. Like, I need to chill. I need to walk away. And it's just really hard. And I just, like, there's not a day that I won't pray for my dad and hope that he can, like, turn everything around. Because I can't talk to him when he's so hateful towards me. And I struggle a lot. So, like, I made an effort last year to try to fix things, like, around the holidays. So the holidays right now are really hard for me. And
Right,
I like, last year at Thanksgiving, we were at the table and he made a joke about how he hit me. And it was really hard for me to even go there. So to sit there and while he joked about how he hit me, it's like I was it was like, why did I do this? Why put so much effort in to get out of my bed when I was so like, I felt like crap, I wasn't gonna go. And I told him that I wasn't gonna go, and he was blowing up my phone, talking about how I don't care about him and his family. Like, nothing matters except me to myself. While I was literally sitting in my brother's car on the way there, and he was just blowing up my phone, telling me how I'm so horrible. And so,
right.
and so that was really hard for me because I try so much. I try, like, I still love my dad no matter what. Like, and that's
Mhm.
what's really hard. Even though my dad's like here, he's on this earth and everything, I feel like I mourn him all the time because
Right.
like I see these perfect relationships on Instagram with like a daughter and a father, like the dad walking her down the aisle. And to realize like I probably won't ever get that is really hard.
No, it is, and my heart breaks for you, Mia. I mean, this really is like what you're describing is classic narcissism. Like it's all about him. And the thing that I would say to you if you were my daughter is, you've got to realize that that is the level he works at. The level he works at is that it's all about him and not about you. So you have to take the time to make it about you, and make a stand because you're an adult now, right? So the feelings that you had as a child are going to play a factor no matter how old an adult you are. Because I'm 53 and I still have issues, sometimes with the things that went with my parents. But, you know, we don't have to let it dictate how we are, how we grow, the impact we make in people's lives. Um, and I see that you've got a really great future. I mean, uh, I actually was reading today that some of the trials we go through are so that we can help somebody else cope through them, and I think for you, Mia, you've got a wonderful future ahead of you, especially um, deciding to get the degree you're getting. So tell me a little bit like what made you go down that choice besides this dynamic you have going on with your father?
I feel like I had a really hard childhood, and when I was 11, I had to be put in a mental hospital because I tried to kill myself. I struggled with self-harm since from when I was 10 till I was 18.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, my cousin started going down that road and is struggling with depression and self-harm. And last year, I got a text at 3 in the morning and she texted me and she was like, how many ibuprofen does it take to kill you? And I was like, what's going on? Like, and I
Mhm.
just jumped up. Like, my blood pressure rose through the roof. I jumped up and I was like, Mom, we need to go. Like, she needs us. And so I feel like when it comes to other people, I can jump into that action mode. For myself, I usually don't, but when it comes to other people, I can. And I feel like although I feel like I'm still in the struggle, I feel like I'm not in the middle of it or at the beginning. I'm getting closer to the end.
Uh-huh.
So I feel like I'm a good example of how your like past can be horrible. You can grow up and struggle so much, but it doesn't always stay like that. And I'm glad it doesn't always stay like that because I struggled a lot for a long time. And I struggled like with all kinds of relationships, like with relationships with other people, like friendships. For a long time I was mean because I didn't want like all those words that my dad would tell me, I really took them in. And
Uh-huh.
I because I thought so lowly of myself, I was mean to everyone because I didn't want anyone to talk to me. If I was so horrible, then like everyone stay away. And I really regret doing that because I needed so badly to know that I was loved and I
Right.
wasn't horrible things. And it even affected my like it affected me spiritually. Like
Uh-huh.
because I remember there being a sermon about honoring your mother and father. And it was really hard for me because I couldn't understand how to honor my father when it seemed like he hated me. Like
Right.
when he would abuse me, like it was like for a while it was just emotional abuse, which for me it was so horrible because it was my dad and it's someone who like your father shapes all your relationships in your life, like especially when you're a girl, it shapes your romantic relationships. And
Yeah.
I remember my dad telling me, no one wants a girl with daddy issues. Like you're never gonna find love because you're like this. And so I really struggled. And anytime I was in a relationship and things were going south with my dad, they started going south with in my relationships because all these horrible things started like I felt those horrible things and so I acted like those horrible things sometimes.
Uh-huh.
And I know that I'm not those horrible things, but I couldn't separate it when he was in my life and he's not in my life right now. And there's still days when I miss him. And I feel like it set me up even more for failure in romantic relationships because my dad was horrible for so long, but at the beginning he wasn't horrible.
Right. Well, that's the way most survivors feel. So, children of abuse, I'm hearing from you, feel the same way. They saw the parts of that parent who were great, and they mourn the loss of what they thought they had with that parent. But then the reality comes in of who they really are, and it's very painful to live with and live in that kind of life. You
Yeah, like
know.
my dad for a while he loved me more than anything and he tried his hardest. Like I remember he would brush my hair with lotion because he didn't know any better and it was so tangled. And so that's one of the things that I would remember to keep me like wanting to have him in my life to like remember he's not horrible. His actions are horrible, but I know he's not horrible. And I know that he didn't wake up one day and decide to be horrible. Like I
Right.
know that life wasn't fair to him, and that doesn't make his actions excusable. It's just an explanation. Because survivors, like we sometimes we lash out, like we get so triggered that
Uh-huh.
we lash out and we make mistakes. But I know that my actions don't define me when I'm triggered, and I feel like I constantly have to forgive myself for maybe saying some words I shouldn't have said, or like just isolating myself from everyone because I just couldn't handle anything. And I
Uh-huh.
feel like that's not something that I feel like that's something that everyone can hear is that forgive yourself for doing the things that you did when you were triggered because I know like my mom especially, she was really hard on herself for not leaving earlier or breaking
Right.
up the relationship. And I feel like at first I didn't see all the things that my mom did that helped me so much. But now that I'm older, everyone knows I'm a mama's girl, and my mom and
Mhm.
I are like this. And I thank God for my mom every day. And I
Yeah.
always
Well,
tell her, ooh, yeah, I always tell her that if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be alive, not just because she gave birth to me, but because for a long time, I was so suicidal, and I didn't she was one of the only reasons that kept me here.
mhm. Yeah, your mom's a pretty great lady. So I adore her. You know, one of the things that as far as wisdom that I love to impart on young people who may be watching, and you too, like, that struggle is real because even I had that in my head of, abandonment and father issues and daddy issues and feeling like nobody was ever going to love me because of those things and how it affected my relationships. And when I finally just made the conscious effort, like in my head of I wasn't going to pick a bad relationship anymore, what's the closest relationship to me that I saw that was good, that I wanted that. That's the relationship I wanted. And it happened to be my grandparents. And because they could show me that loving, kind, nurturing relationship, and they showed me what a wonderful marriage could be, I was able to then make the conscious choice to find somebody that gave me that. So don't rush it, take your time. There is good relationships out there, even for us girls who have daddy issues.
Yeah.
We hope you're enjoying this episode of Through the Eyes of Survivors. We wanted to pause for a moment and let you know that Through the Eyes of Survivors shop is now open. This is a great way for you to not only help survivors of domestic violence, but let everyone else know that you will not be silent on this very important issue. From t-shirts to bags to coffee mugs, we have so much to choose from. To grab swag, head to store.breakthesilencedv.org. That's store.breakthesilencedv.org. I can't say enough how much we appreciate you and that the organization is blessed by your generosity. We hope you enjoy the rest of this episode and you continue to subscribe to our podcast. Thank you.
My stepdad are one of the greatest, it's the best thing in my life is that I watched my mom fall in love. Even
Mhm.
though I tried to fight him, I really did. In my mind, I was so convinced that any guy getting near her was gonna hurt her. So he and my mom will both tell you that I drew blood. I literally would
Yeah,
dig my nails into him. I was like, get away from my mother. This isn't happening again. No one's gonna hurt her. And he ended up being the greatest thing in both of our lives.
right. Well, and I think a lot of children do that. They do that protectiveness when you go into the next marriage. I know my daughters did. That's one of the things when my husband asked permission to marry me, my youngest daughter went, only if you promise never to hurt her, never to beat her, and to keep my biological father away from me because he had had issues and hurt her. So, I mean, those are the kind of things that definitely children that grow up in this atmosphere they think about, right? The constant, is somebody else going to hurt my mother? Am I going to be back in this position again? Am I going to listen to her crying? And do I have to look at her at the hospital again? Those are legitimate concerns that kids have
Mhm.
coming out of these relationships that I don't think adults really think about when they start entering into dating lives, right? So I'm glad you shared that with us and like that perspective of it. So going back, like with your experience with your dad
and your mom leaving. When she did leave, were you all for her leaving at that time, or were you still, some children like to try to keep the parents together no matter what?
No, I feel like I didn't even know what was going on. Like
Okay.
I was so young. I just remember we ended up in a women's shelter, and I didn't see my dad for a long time, so I honestly don't really remember that. I don't think I ever really wanted them together because it was soon after that my dad started being mean to me, and so I didn't want someone like that in my mom's life either. I remember moving houses and everything. I didn't really remember much like that. I remember my dad saying that she broke up this relationship and that she ruined everything. And I was just like, okay. Like, I never really took that part in. I feel like I never accepted all those horrible things that he said about my mom. I only accepted the horrible things that he said about me.
Mhm.
Like,
You internalized it personally.
I did. I feel like I struggled so bad with self-harm because I felt like I deserved everything that he was saying to me, and I felt like I deserved worse. I have scars that are never gonna go away, and I do have some tattoos over them now, thankfully, but it was really hard, and I'm 2 years clean from self-harm now, which I'm very
That's
proud of
great.
myself for.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It was really hard because there's definitely addiction definitely runs in our family, and
Mhm.
I am not the exception from that, but because I struggled with self-harm so badly, I'm never gonna pick up a drink, never gonna take any drugs or anything because I know myself and I know that I can't handle anything like that. I know that once I start, it'll take me years to stop, and I don't wanna continue that cycle for me or my children in the future.
No, and that's very admirable. You have a lot of self-will and self-control to be able to do that, so I applaud you on
Thank
that.
you.
So, I know we had discussed about this before in another meeting, but, like, you were telling me about your experience in the shelter, how it shaped you, and, like, I know we have Holidays of Hope coming up with kids and stuff and how important that has been to you. You wanna talk about that maybe just a little bit?
Yes, of course. So I remember I grew up in the shelter. I don't really remember anything except hitting my toe on something and bleeding down the hallway. But I know that like people gave to us, and I remember growing up and not really having everything that everyone else did. And that was really hard because I felt so different. And so
Mhm.
to not have the things that everyone else did I struggled with. But now that I have everything that I want and more, it's really important to me to be able to give to people that don't have everything that they need. And so I'm I participated in Holidays of Hope last year, and we're gonna participate again. And I was the first donor, by the way. Just kidding. Um, but yeah, it's really important to me to help out as much as I can because I know how badly it affects kids, and I just want them to be able to have something that makes them feel normal.
Absolutely. That's wonderful, and, is there anything like you would wanna touch on that you think, like, if you're speaking to other kids out there in your situation that you would want them to know?
Um, I would just say, like, because it's really hard having your parent be an abuser because we see all these, like, our moms, they leave our fathers and then they're free, but we're not. Like, we'll always have, like, my dad will always be part of me. And, like, one of the other ladies said how she took her life back. She changed her name and she was free. And I bawled my eyes out when I heard that because sometimes it feels like I'll never be free. And so that's really hard. And it was so hard growing up and feeling so much hatred for myself because it felt like my dad hated me. And all I would say is that I don't think our usually our abusers, if when they're our parents, they don't hate us, they just can't love us. And it's not always their fault, and it's not our fault. Like, it's not fair to ourselves to punish ourselves for the actions of someone else.
Mhm.
And I would say to parents who are dealing with kids who have to like visit their abusers, like, to give them a little grace, because what my mom knows, when we would come back from my dad's house, it was like all the hatred that had been poured into us all weekend gushed out. So we were mean. And
Right.
we never tried to be. It's just how it was. And I would say that, like, when you become an adult, it gets a lot easier. And so you
Mm.
just have to make it through those few years, and you'll be pretty free. And it never doesn't suck. It always sucks.
Right.
But eventually it starts sucking less, and when you turn it to use it, other people that you can help, it makes it feel like everything was worth it. And I always say that nothing ever happens in vain. And one thing that, like, from the Bible that, or from a sermon that helps me, is that someone who's going to help the brokenhearted is going to struggle with great brokenheartedness. And I definitely do, but the way that I can help people, like, it's like I leave all my problems at the door and run out to help someone else. And I help myself sometimes. So
Mhm.
I get it, it's all worth it eventually, even though I know that when you're in it, it's like so suffocating and that you're never gonna leave. But you get out, and it's worth every minute of it.
Awesome. And as an adult, have you been able to set some kind of like boundaries in your relationship between you and your dad at all?
I haven't talked to him since March. Um,
Yeah.
he has another daughter and son since he got remarried, and but I made the decision to go see them because I wanted that relationship with them too, but I realized that I can't put myself in the lines of fire for someone else right now. And it makes me sad because his daughter loves me,
Yeah.
but I know that until, like, I'm at least 95% healed, that I
Right.
can't handle it. And I can't, like, I have so much that I want to do, and I feel like when I put myself into that position of being in his life or him in my life, that it throws everything off, and I can't be the best version of myself that I want to be,
Mhm.
because I feel like when I'm stuck in it, that it's like I have to do everything for myself, and I don't want to live for myself. I want to live for others. I want to do everything that I can so someone doesn't have to struggle the way that I did.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And actually, that's a boundary in itself, knowing that the struggle for you is too real, that you have to remove yourself. That's a boundary that you've created that you need in this space at this time. And maybe that will change later on, and maybe it won't. But at least, it's healthy. It's a healthy coping mechanism. And so you're on the right track, you know?
Setting boundaries was really hard for me at first because I feel like every time I ever, like, there were only 2 times I ever really set boundaries, and those 2 times were the only times that he ever, like, physically harmed me. And so it was
Hmm.
terrified for so long. Like, and the hardest thing for me is I thought that, like, when it was just emotional abuse, I was like, "Okay." Like, I would just be like, "I wish he would just hit me. Like, please just hit me and I'll never have to see him again." And then he hit me, and I still had to see him, and it was the
Yeah.
hardest thing ever because every time he raised his voice, I thought that I was gonna get hit and he would threaten me. Like, I remember the first time he hit me, he had I wanna say I was, like, 12 or 13, and we were arguing, and I said something like, nothing ever warrants violence, and so
Right.
And I was just a kid, and I said, "Don't test me, because I'll block you." He showed up at my house, and our house back then was, like, made out of brick, and he made me go outside, and I went outside by myself, and he pushed me into the brick wall, and he yelled at me, and I was just bawling my eyes out, and I, like, screamed, and I so badly wanted someone to come save me, but I know that they couldn't. I think eventually someone came out, but I don't really remember.
Right.
I just remember running inside as soon as I could, and so having to still see him after that. And then the second time that he hit me, it was because I didn't order food for my grandpa and I, because my grandpa only speaks Spanish. And so I didn't know how to ask him for his credit card, so I didn't order food. And he got home and he was so angry at me. And he was like, "Give me your phone." And I was like, "No, you don't pay these bills." And so I didn't give him my phone. And then he grabbed my phone out of my hands. He literally gripped my arms so badly that there were bruises on them
Mhm.
immediately. Like, not it wasn't a day later that the bruises showed up. It was immediately. I immediately had bruises on my arm. But he grabbed
Yeah.
my phone and he threw it at the ground. Repeated. It's not like he threw it once and walked away. He repeatedly threw it at the ground while I sat there bawling my eyes out. And then my brother was still here, so I was like, "Call mom, like, tell her to come get me. I can't be here. I can't do this." And my dad called my mom and he blamed it on me, said it was not my fault that he
Of
hit me,
course.
that
Yeah.
I should just gave him my phone. And then he just continued to blame it on me. I was like, all I said was no. Like, this,
Yeah.
you don't pay for this phone. Like, sir, get your own phone. but but so yeah, that was, and then thankfully, c like, I hated COVID, but thankfully COVID happened right after that, so I didn't have to see him for a long time. I never after that, I don't think I ever stayed the night at his
Right.
house again, and I was so thankful for that, 'cause I can't be in that home. Like,
Mm.
it's like I walk in and it's like part of me stays at the door. Like, it's like just part of me that walks in, and the rest of me just it's like I'm like dissociating when I'm there. Like, I'm not
Right.
myself, like I'm just like I don't even know how to explain it. But so that was really hard for me. And I just like now, like I see pictures of him and I bawl my eyes out
Right.
because he looks so happy. And I feel like one of the worst things he ever said to me, like despite him saying that no one would ever love me and things like that, is when he had his new daughter and he came back like to Texas. We just got in a huge argument and he was just yelling at me and talking about his daughter, and I was like, "It seems like she's everything you ever wanted and I'm just nothing." And he was like, "She is everything I ever wanted."
Oh, that's just so wrong. That is so wrong. Wow. Yeah, you definitely did not deserve that, man. But you're definitely wanted. I know your mom, and your mom is, yeah. You and your mom are so tight, and hold on to those people who want you. Absolutely.
My stepdad
It's hard to do that though when it's a parent, because you want to be wanted by a parent. But as you get to be an adult, it becomes easier to see the bigger picture
Mhm.
and realize that you've got to be around the people who want to be around you.
Yeah, I'm so grateful, like, for my like, God really redeemed everything for my mom, and when he brought in my stepdad, it not only healed my mom, but it, like, healed parts of me,
Right.
because my stepdad loves me so much. And even though my mom won't admit that I'm the favorite child, my stepdad will. And like even on my bad days where I'm rude because I like sometimes when I get triggered, I'll react like I'm still in those situations with my dad. And so I'll treat my stepdad like he's my dad and I feel horrible because I love my stepdad more than anything.
Mhm.
And there's not a day that I'm not thankful for him. But because I've seen my stepdad redeal, like, and my mom, like, how their lives just turned around, that I know that it's gonna happen for me too. I'm just waiting on it.
Yeah.
And but to be fair, I wanna do a lot of things before I get married, unless I get married next year. We'll see.
Well, you are doing some really great things. So, as we wind this up, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about our social media team and engagement, maybe encourage some other people to join that area that you're helping out in. So,
Okay, so I'm the engagement coordinator. So if and I have a few volunteers. So if you ever message us or comment and you get a reply on your comments, that's most likely me or my volunteers. And so anytime you message, we will message you back. And if you need resources, we'll either give you resources or if it's within the hours of support line, we'll head you over there. But
mhm,
it's engagement is really fulfilling. It can be, I'm not gonna lie, it can be a little triggering helping
right.
people that are still in it. But once you're healed and you have the opportunity to turn things around and help someone else, it's one of the most fulfilling things that you could do. And I love being able to volunteer. It fills my cup, and that's all that I ever wanted and needed. So if you want to volunteer, hit us up. Put
Yes.
an application.
Yes, we'll put the link in the description below. Put in an application. We'd love to have you on our team. And we'd love to have more young people helping because there's so many young people still who are struggling in this, not just, the older generation. We have generations of families going through this. So the more people that can impart wisdom and experience, the better. So, anyway, thank you, Mia, for coming on the podcast today. And yeah, we'd love to thank everybody for joining Through the Eyes of Survivors. So please check out us on our website at breakthesilencedv.org. You can also, we have Break the Silence Facebook, Instagram, we're on Twitter. Check out the different social media platforms. Of course, our YouTube channel, like and subscribe. And hopefully, we'll see you soon. Thank you.
For joining us today in this episode of Through the Eyes of Survivors. To continue supporting survivors and joining us in the fight against domestic violence, visit our website at www.breakthesilencedv.org. You can make a donation, look at some of our great programs, and together we can truly make a difference. If we can break our silence, so can you. So please donate and help share. Thank you.